Thank you. Thank you. I would introduce Sakthi, myself. It goes in short, Sakthi, right? No need to say Sakthivel.
Yeah, sure, please.
So Sakthi and myself met in Singapore several years ago. I would say it's almost 10, 12 years ago. Initially, we met through our mutual mentor, Mr. Studies Benjamin. We always give credit to him because he's a good man. He looked after me like his younger brother and got me started when I left my job as a fire officer to go into the world of training, which was like, you're going into you're going to be fighting now with the wolves. Who is going to look after you? And I remember they told me, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. You are not. And I said, all right, I guess we'll figure it out after a while. But people like Stanis honestly helped me get started. And then later on, I got to meet Sakthi through Stanis. We met at events. I think we shared coffee sometimes. We just had a conversation. But what really struck me was, bro, you're always very focused. You look first you're a commando. So like you can help it. Like, I'm like, who is this young man who is like looking so focused and is moving really quick? So that struck me about you. Little did I know that you're going to become such a big machine in the visibility industry. And thank God, the fact that internet is around, we've kept in touch. And I thought, you know what? This podcast needs professionals like you. And let me read a little bit about Sakthi, because some people, who is Mr. Sakthivel? Okay. Sakthi is an international speaker and coach, entrepreneur in the financial services industry. Before joining this industry, he spent several years as an airborne ranger in the military with the rank of a major for 11 years. And since he embarked on this journey, he has been rising and rising and rising, as far as I've been observing. He specializes in helping individuals create visibility that will enable them to boost their personal brands and, of course, to grow their businesses as experts. The goal of that, the ultimate goal of that, of course, is to achieve maximum performance. So I feel very honored to have you on Ramp to Success with my partners, Steve and John. So Sakthi, please, let's give him a big, warm welcome to.
Thank you. I mean, it's awesome, the way you introduced me. Thank you so much, Gideon. As you know, since the time I know you, the only reason why I love to be around you is because of your kind words and the way you can make someone feel. So I think that's the thing. Gideon, you have already said that how we met, but just let me add on something about Gideon. People connect because there's something that we have in common in terms of what we do, or there's a connection in people because that someday we will come back together and collaborate and do great things. So our connection, I think, came out in that way. We knew that there are big things coming in our way, and there was a good connection when we first met. I think what Gideon said about 11 years ago, 10 years ago. But yeah, and here we are, and we have grown from where we were together. And now we have come to a level now, think that we can come together and even give more value and impact others with the experience and the knowledge we have. So Gideon, of course, Steve and John, it's an awesome opportunity for me to be here all the way from Singapore to join you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're honored, Sakthi. And you may be wondering, now it's going to be a round robin. We're just having a warm conversation about the issues. I send you some of the questions. So these gentlemen, they've done lots of interviews, but we want it to be a conversation between professionals who are going through the mighty jungle of life, trying to figure out a path for themselves, for their businesses, and also serving other people. So it will be, I throw in one question, they throw in one question. So if I were you, Sakthi, I'd be saying, how did Gideon get to know these guys? They're living in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's living on the West Coast. How did they get to meet? All right, get ready for this. We met in the back. We met in a rental car. we were three guys in a rental car having warm conversations. Nothing bad, nothing dirty, nothing silly. Okay, just want to be very clear about it. We're talking about careers, we're talking about families, we're talking about professions, and we had been attending a workshop that was training us to be very effective corporate trainers. And the company that we met, I don't want to call the name, but it got us into the same room, trained us for 1 week, and then they started flying us around the country from one spot to another. So I met these guys like in the trenches, and they were fun people then. They continue to be fun people now. So my first question to you, Sakthi, is what drives you? What makes you get up every day and do what you do? I know you have some routines, we'll come to that, but what really drives you to move from army, get into financial industry, and you're excelling every single day? What gives you that kind of drive?
Now, before answering this question, I just like to say this. The three of you guys, I've always heard of things like, great minds connect. And you are a classic case of, you guys connected in a rental car. So I know that's awesome, amazing, right? And now coming back to your question, I think what drives me is it's actually fear. I always believe that, if you really think about it, right? If I assume that being in the financial industry, I'm sure Steve will also agree. If I assume that I live up to 80, I got about 28,000 days. And that's not a lot of time if you think about it. And I've already bypassed more than 50% of that. If I live up to that, right? and the thing is that, so the question is, when I turn back and ask myself, what have I done, and what can my kids one day come and say, this is what my dad have achieved? And it doesn't have to be dollars and cents or legacy in terms of just a big house and luxury, but it's the impact that we make since we have been here for so many years. I think that's one fear that always ask myself, am I spending my day wisely, making a difference to others and to myself? So I think this is one thing. So as much I'm in the military, but every day when I wake up, I'm thankful that I got another day and I got a full 24 hours to do whatever I want to. I think that's one thing. I wake up grateful that I got another day. I think that gives me the energy that, I've been given another chance. Let's do this. Let's make today a wonderful day and make things work. I think that's one thing. And of course, we will be talking about goals, right? Now, I think human beings, we are a goal-oriented species. We got no goals. That's it, right? We have no direction and we'll just go. But I think when you look at the bigger goals and you break it down into smaller goals, every day, a journey to 1,000 miles starts from a single step. So I know every day it's that one step. So when I wake up, I know that whatever I do today is going to get me one step closer, and that excites me. So that is the key thing that excites me every single day and drives me to go.
Wow. That is fascinating. That is fascinating. I know John must be having some questions. Steve must be having some questions. I'm just going to zip up for a minute and let these guys take it over, because that's fascinating answer right there. Thank you so much.
You actually led perfectly into a question that's, I've asked some of our guests this same question because I'm always fascinated at different perspectives on goals. So to me, I see sort of two different camps when it comes to goals. There's the SMART goals, people that believe that you have to have a very specific goal that's measurable and all those things in the SMART goals. And then there's another camp of people that they're kind of like in the United States, there's a famous basketball coach back in the 70s, John Wooden. And he won, I think, like 6 or 7 national championships with his team. And he used to tell his team, don't worry about the other team. Don't worry about scores. Don't worry about goals. Just focus on the fundamentals and yourself and improving yourself. And if you just make yourself better, everything else will work itself out. So he didn't focus a lot on specific stated goals. So I'm curious, what is your perspective on how you approach goals?
Now, for me, I think I'm a hybrid of both. Okay. I don't believe in competitors. I believe in dominating the game that I play. Think about it. If you're going to play the game, you play to win and you dominate the game. Why settle for less, right? So whether I can do it and I can achieve it, that's another part. And that's what makes the game exciting. You work towards it. And so I'm very clear. So I don't worry about competitors, because if I dominate the game, it's like running, right? When you're running and you're just focused that I'm going to run in this timing, and that timing is a timing that not many have achieved, I know that I'll beat all my competitors. I don't have to run and look back at them, because I know that I just got to focus on that time. So that's what I believe in. So I'm in the hybrid because I believe that any goals should bring us to a next level from where we have been yesterday. So there should be growth, right? Anything that doesn't grow is as good as dead. So So that's my key belief. And I realized one thing that I learned from my very wise man, my dad. He passed on 2 years ago. But one of the biggest lessons that he taught me was, Sakthi, you're going to live your life either achieving your own goals, or you're going to be a resource to achieving others' goals. So what are you going to do? And that was a question that hit me hard. I couldn't answer, but every day I remind myself I have ownership to my goals. So yes, I need to have goals. I need to have something to have a standard. I benchmark myself, and I believe in having massive goals and big goals that is like, wow, scary. So that excites me even more. Maybe virtue of being in commando and ranger is like, just go for the big ones, and then all I got to do is work myself to have massive actions. Work harder and do it. So John, I'm a hybrid actually.
I love your answer. You just teed me up for another question that I had, and then I'll let somebody else jump in.
Steve, I guess.
You mentioned being a ranger. I've never served in the military, but my dad was in the military here for 30 years, and a lot of my family has been in the military. And so I've always thought that it was interesting that people who've not been around people in the military sometimes don't understand a lot of the skills that you develop being in the military, especially if you're in a combat arms type of a position, because they just have this picture of what they see in the movies. But I know being a ranger, you must have learned a lot about leadership and working with different types of people and problem solving and lots of other skills that you can apply to many, many other types of professions. So I'm curious, when you got out of the military, what made you choose the particular path that you chose professionally?
Maybe I'll just give you a story. Thanks to Gideon, he taught me to be a good storyteller, right?
He's the man on stories.
Yeah. So before I left SAF, Singapore Armed Forces, there was an incident where we were in an overseas training camp. I can't mention the country, but there was a jet airplane crash where I lost 3 of the servicemen, and one of them was having a beer the night before, and he was telling me of his aspirations of what he wanted to do. So he survived, but he got badly burned, so he was quite serious. I think that hit me hard. I mean, if you walk on the road and you get hit by a car, fine. But if you're sitting in a military camp and a jet plane just crashes right smack where you are, that hit me hard that, things are uncertain, and there are many things in life that you got to start thinking about what you want to do and take action. So that hit me hard, because I was still comfortable being in the army, because it's still a comfort zone, right? I've been trained, and I know that the environment is something that I'm very used to. It's a secure environment. I'm good in what I do, especially. So why would I want to get out of the comfort zone? So when that incident happened, I knew that I can only grow when I get out of there. And I also realized that at the moment when I handled that situation, it taught me that I'm actually, certain skill sets are only good when they are applied. And military, yes, I will apply, but can I bring this out to more people to use this in their own personal or business development? And that made me thought that, that gives me a certain level of purpose. And that's the key reason why I left. And why financial industry, right? Now, I don't know about US, but over here in Singapore, Gideon may agree that there are a lot of financial planners out there, and a lot of them tend to, not a lot, at least, but usually the 80-20 rule, right? 80% tend to sell products than services. So why I came to this industry was when I went to the parents of one of the servicemen who passed away. They were old, and the son was their retirement plan, and he was no more. So they had no arrangements. They have given everything to their son, and he's no more. And he had no insurance plans, no coverage. So that's it. They were left there hanging, hoping for some help. And that hit me hard. It's like, I felt bad about what happened to them. So the question is, who's going to do something about that? So that's the reason, since I had a purpose to make a difference and I was good in what I did, then can I go to the industry and make a difference? So that's where I went in. And what made it even more interesting is now that I'm here and I'm doing well, can I multiply the number of people who can do just as much or even better than me? So that became a purpose, that rather than just being a financial consultant or advisor, I'll be an industry changer, do things differently, so I can make sure that the people get the kind of services, people can get the kind of value that they really truly deserve. I think that was the key inspiration, John, that made me want to just leave. It was uncomfortable, but as we all know, right, one thing that I learned is Getting out the uncomfortable is where growth happens. And yeah, and I think I somehow or other was well trained to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. That's what it did for me.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And the insurance industry can certainly make you uncomfortable in a lot of different ways. So that's a great story. I think that, one of the things that is so powerful, whether it's in the insurance industry or elsewhere, is stories like that really help people think about taking action. And taking action is what people need to do when it comes to insurance, because so oftentimes they're so willing to procrastinate for a long time. And so that's why it's important to have folks like yourself out there on the front lines. Let me ask you this. I want to, one of the things you talked about a variety of things as it related to your goals and some of the things that you've done in the military and elsewhere, but so much of that is about your mindset. What advice, suggestions, what do you tend to do to make sure that, especially when you're leading people, and especially when you're doing it from a sales standpoint, what do you do to help not only your own mindset, but those of those folks that you lead as well? Sakthi, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think, of course, we have a lot of explanation out there, the difference between fixed and growth mindset and so on. So I won't go into the technical aspect. To keep it simple, I think the first thing is making a choice, right? And I use this term, the choice is, would you like to be, would you like to rise above mediocrity? It's nothing wrong to be mediocre, do the same things that everyone do. But if you want to rise against that, it's a commitment that you are making. And it's a choice that you can make. You are never wrong, right? If you decide, I just want to be in a specific job, be comfortable, it's fine. But if you are really looking for making a difference, then are you willing to pay the price? So if you are, then it's a choice that you make. Because we all have choices, so long as we are able to face the consequence. So you make a choice and you are committed to it and you are willing to face the consequence, bang, you are there. You are mentally prepared that that's what I'm going to expect. So I won't even call it advice, but an experience is I always tend to overplay my potential adversities that I'll face. So if I know, like for example, when Gideon called me and I knew that I had 10 minutes, I made sure that I'll be in 5 minutes, So and that's the thing, right? You don't give yourself enough room to give the reason, but just say, it can be done and do that. So I guess it's based on choice, and the rest will. And I think it's also on the desire, right? When you want it so much, you will do everything possible to want. So going back to mindset, I think it's us, the choices that we make and how we see things.
That is really interesting. Yeah, I noted, and I guess the gentleman on the call noted that you promised 10 minutes, but you were there in 5. I'm like, okay. Now he's showing all his commander instincts. Boom. He's right here before the enemy. The enemy is taking 10 minutes. No, he's here right here now. So the enemy is unprepared, but thank goodness we were prepared. And this is going in the direction that I really appreciate. Something that I don't know if our guests know or the co-host is that since you left the army, you're still running literally like every day, and you run really long hours. You still do your training, and I will bet that you're still keeping very much in very good shape. And I know a couple of weeks ago we compared the screenshots of our running distance, and Steve is also into running. I consider that one of the routines that keep your mind sharp. Can you talk a little bit about running as a routine that you've kept beyond your active military days, and running as something that sharpens your mind? Because I dare to say that because it sharpens my mind more than anything else. But we'd like to get your view about that, and maybe our listeners, our followers can also find other activities that they can do that will uplift their soul, sharpen their minds, and clear their hearts to do good work.
Sure. Now, I want to use this word. People have a negative connotation of the word fear, right? But I do that because I fear. I have this fear of aging, and not aging gracefully. I want to age like a wine, right? Earn my income, spend my time with my family, be healthy. I can, and I thought that was important for me. And sometimes when I look at some of my own peers within the same age, I'm open. I'm 44. So I will say, you know, prime of my age. But there are guys who are at that age who are like telling me I'm old, you know, I can't, this is not for me. It's like, what? You know, you are just 44. So I think it became a case that I never want to be in a case where even when I have my grandkids, I got 2 daughters now, they are still young, you know, oldest is 16. You know, when I got my grandchildren, you know, I want to be there to be able to run with them and say, come on, let's go, you know, follow grandpa. You know, that's something that I take it seriously for myself, something that I look forward for. And now, yes, why do I run? Basically, I think when I run, what happens is that usually whenever I feel that I have got a lot of stuff in my mind, you know, it's cluttered and too many things, I realize that the best solution for me is to just get out there and run. So I do 2 things when I run. Either I listen to, you know, now my favorite music that I always listen to is either AC/DC and or Metallica. You know, these 2 songs, I'll just listen and I'll just my mind go. And I think what happens is that I get to center myself. I get to start thinking away from all the other distractions, just looking at the problem. And then from there, it slowly thinks about what would I have done. And I'll just let my mind run. So what happens, I don't control it. I don't control my thoughts. I let it run freely. So by the end of the run, I realized that I got some kind of options for the issues that I wanted to settle. I feel more centered. I feel more, I'll say the other thing is that I feel a sense of achievement because, you know, I've just done something that I wanted to do, right? Exercise, sweat it out. And the feel good factor, you know, success begets success, right? When you do something good, you find that you will always have inspiration to do something better. So I realize when I come back, I get decluttered, you know, I feel more clear. And that is one thing, and it became an addiction. I will use the word addiction, not even habit. That now that if I don't run for like 2 days in a row, I feel like, you know, that's it. That's not good, right? So it became an addiction where I just enjoy the run. So I think that's the key thing. It centers me. And yes, I will strongly suggest, even if it's not a run, if it is something like a brisk walk, depending on situation, just sweat it out. I think that's the key. Sweat it out away from all the other distractions. You know, if you need to put the phone away, unless you're listening to podcasts or whatever, just put it there or listen to the right stuff that will tune and focus your mind to that one thing that we want to focus on.
Amazing. Amazing. I absolutely agree. And I'll let Steve comment on this because running clears my mind. Running gives me ideas. If I'm writing a paper, whether it's a scientific paper or not, if I'm struggling with how do I connect 2 tissues? How do I connect 2 dots? I go running. If I'm not listening to a book, an audio book, and I come back, I have the connecting idea. So it really purifies my soul. And believe it or not, Steve has a secret agenda about marathons. How about Steve share that with us, because we're all about creating positive routines and we're learning from Sakthi how running rejuvenates him. Steve, why are you on this mission, this special mission to run all the marathons across America? Tell us, how does that contribute to you professionally?
You're throwing me into a mission I never signed up for, Gideon. No, I've run a fair number of marathons, but you know, the thing that is really interesting is as you get older, and I'm quite a bit older than you, Sakthi, but as you get older, your mindset shifts, because if you don't run for 2 days, it feels like you're starting over because you've waited and you've taken more than 2 days off. You've got to keep running, because otherwise it's downhill much quicker than it would have been when you're 40 years old. So that requirement for me is if I don't keep running, it's going to be catching up to me, and then I might as well just give it up. But I think, as Gideon mentioned, I listen to a lot of broadcasts on my as I'm running, typically books on audiobooks, and they really help keep my mind going as I'm running. But even while I'm doing that, Gideon, I will tell you, I get lots of new ideas that I bring back, even despite running with the audiobooks. But every once in a while, I got to put the audiobooks aside and just run, because kind of as you said, Sakthi, that ability to just sweat it out, forget about everything, let your mind run. And it's a totally different experience to once in a while leave the audiobook at home. So I find it really helpful. I will say this though, if anybody's interested in seriously something like a goal like running, if you can get a camaraderie of a group of people, it really forces you to make some of those runs you may not feel like doing. So having a group, a running club helps a lot.
Thank you so much, Steve. And I know John will be jumping in here soon. But Steve, remember, to our listeners, to people that follow our podcast on the Ramp to Success, picture a January morning in Kansas City. It's very cold. Yes, the sun is super bright up. The sky looks beautiful, but outside is cold. And picture two gentlemen who are at a conference. The gentleman is Steve and myself. Early morning, boom, we went out for a run. And guess what? Two brothers running together and just having a conversation, coming back sweating and quickly getting ready for the conference. I mean, I keep that as a special a gift from Steve, because I went jogging with somebody that I had a good time, listening to him and not giving excuses about the fact that it's cold. So that really, it taught me in a special way. And I could go on and talk about other people I've run with, but hopefully someday we'll get to run or walk with John or kayak or do some other routines that rejuvenate. So John, what do you do? Or maybe you have some questions about routines that our listeners, our followers can pick up and grow professionally.
Yeah, so on the running thing, I used to run a lot, but now I generally just run when chased. Although I did jog my memory the other day. But when it comes to routines or habits, are there any routines or habits that you have that stand out to you as maybe like cornerstone habits that you find have stuck with you throughout the years, maybe more so than others for whatever reason?
Yes, I think one of the key things that I realized that I do a lot is actually this habit of visualization. I do that, and I think it's become a second nature, whether it's a business appointment, whether it's a business, a presentation up there. And to be frank, when Gideon told me about our podcast, I actually visualized how it's going to be way much earlier when I was having my nap in the afternoon here. So, it's something that I do. So one of the key things I do to help me with that is actually I meditate. It's something that I do twice a day. I do it in the morning, I do it in the evening. And I think one thing I realized that though people are talking about be busy, do things, the hardest thing to do is just sit still and not do anything and think about anything. I realized that is much harder.
Yep.
So I'm glad you said that, because I've tried meditating several times over the years and have failed. So what advice would you give someone like me, who I hear so many successful people talk about the merits of meditating, and yet I feel like I've not succeeded at starting the habit? Any tips for someone like me?
I think the key thing is don't have any specific rules, or don't let anyone tell you, meditation is about sitting there still for half an hour. You got to. I think meditation is about, as I said, right, it's just sitting still and not doing anything and not thinking of anything, and that's hard itself. So I realized that when I first started meditation, I realized that I thought about things that I never thought on a normal day. It's like everything started coming in because of mind, right? When you tell it not to do something, and all the more it will start wondering and start doing things.
Yeah.
So I will say that the key thing is, get yourself in a comfortable posture. Of course, they say normally you sit on the floor with cross leg, but if you think is sitting on a chair, then fine. Sit up there, and I think it's breathing. Relax your breathing, just like you are relaxing yourself. Close your eyes, and sometimes the best thing is think of something that you like, something that like for me, I think about the sun. It's source of energy, right? So I meditate and imagine that I'm draining. I start the day draining, or not draining, but taking the energy from the sun. So when I walk in the sun, I'm just like some mutant from X-Men. I'm just getting energy from you. So I'm drained out. I'm like consistently, and I do that. And so I just have a sun, visualize the sun, and I just do that. So I think the key thing is keep it simple. And if it's 5 minutes for the first day, then fine, it's 5 minutes. And I think we're also training our mind, right? So I think start slow and just do it. And after some time, you realize that you will start enjoying it. You will feel good, better at it. And, you will want to do it longer. So don't maybe worry too much, or it has to be 10 or 15 minutes. Trust me, 3 minutes of just doing that or trying to do that, it's a good improvement. And all you got to do is just consistent progress.
That's great advice. Thank you.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Sakthi, I know you are doing a lot of work that can help people in the area of visibility. And I without a shadow of doubt, know that you have a good presence on LinkedIn and your visibility is consistent, is professional. What are some of the ingredients or what are some of the things that you're putting into that effort to have such good visibility for yourself, and which I know you're also beginning to export or you're beginning to share it with your clients? What are the key elements of visibility that you could give to a beginner or to someone who wants to establish good visibility online in the context of today?
I think there are two areas, right? Social media platform today, I think we have our personal, which is Facebook, which is Instagram, and then LinkedIn is more on a professional kind of a platform where we talk to people about what we do, what we can offer, and everything. So I think the platform is important. But when I was very active on Facebook, where I talked about when I run, with my kids. Like my girls, they run about 7 kilometers with me when we had our circuit breaker, but in slow pace, no time, no pressure. You can stop, you can walk, no problem. But just have this sense of accomplishment. But I think creating visibility, the first thing, or I would say, is three things that we got to take note of. Number one is, of course, for me, I think it's always positioning yourself, and you need to be clear what you want to position yourself out there. You want to position yourself as a good father, expert in a profession, depending on the platform. You got to be very clear of what do you want to position yourself to be. Then that will be very clear what kind of contents you need to put out there. So I think that's the first thing, because a lot of people are unclear. They just put things that they feel for the day, because we are emotional people, right? We feel happy, we put something nice, and then sometimes we feel sad or there's a bad experience, we ramble on social media. So it becomes a place where you just download what you feel. But we got to be very clear. So I think positioning, and the more you are real, and the more you don't have to put up a facade that, I'm a professional, but be real, be authentic, be yourself. The good thing about positioning and personal branding that I really believe is, there can never be another Sakthi, another John, a Steve, or a Gideon. We are unique by ourselves. Let people see the uniqueness in you. That's what they want to see. And if you can tell your personal stories, even to the extent of being vulnerable, which I'm always, times where I'm down, times where I tears. I mean, not too dramatic, but again, experiences, but there must be some kind of learning that they should take away. So this is what I did, and it worked well. People resonated with me. They started asking me, Shakti, thank you. And that's why I realized, wow, it's awesome. And that's the first part. Today, how I help people is on the professional context of things is, now when COVID happened, of course, everybody, we never expect things to be, initially it was about new norms, right? Now it became such that it's like, what's the next new norm? That's how fast things are changing. So last year, in April in Singapore, when we had our first, we call it not lockdown, but circuit breaker, just another nice name, I guess. But when we had that, I realized that, especially in the financial industry, solopreneurs, there goes our networking session. There goes where we just meet people. And I realized that what other ways am I able to put myself out, or individuals can put, and I got to do it so that I can validate and show people by example that this can be done. So this is where I started a video podcast for myself, live chats. And I didn't want to have too much content, so I get experts to talk about themselves. And this is where, and it has to also benefit, right? So I tell them to talk about what are the challenges they face as business owners and what can other business owners learn from them. So when I did this, and as the profile of business owners, a better and higher came in, people saw me as a professional, as an expert, because I was always, when you are flying with the eagles, you are seen as an eagle, right? And that's what happened. And I realized that I started getting amazing people up, and each day I had a podcast, my visibility grew. People knew that this guy called Shakti exists in Singapore, right? And he's, amazing. So I think it just grew, right? So I guess there was no expectation of what I wanted, but I was very clear what I wanted to give, the value. So when we are out there giving value, the universe works this way, right? We have to believe that that when you give, you don't have to worry, you will receive. Yeah. Just keep your hands out there and be ready to receive. So I think that's what I do, and I help people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You go out there, you serve people, and you also lead by example. You don't just say, hey guys, you go fight that fire. You're also there in the trenches fighting the fire with them, to use my own bias, so please bear with me. I really admire the fact that you're also doing it yourself, and others can now see that they can leverage that. But there's a saying that you shared, which really caught my attention. When you're flying with your eagles, you're seen to be an eagle. Because who's got a binocular standing by to observe when you're flying? Like, no, that's not an eagle. That's not an eagle. No, no. Once you're out with the eagles, that sure is an eagle. Nobody's carrying a binocular around waiting to see. So that's really beautiful, and it's something that when we thought of bringing you on a platform, we knew you're an eagle, and our platform, we want to fly with eagles so that other people also identify us as eagles. So thank you for bringing in that word of wisdom. Is there a piece of handout or a gift, something that our folks who come to watch this podcast or listen to this podcast can take away from you to be able to continue to grow, either in the area of visibility or in professional development?
Yes, I do. I actually have a link on my landing page that can be given to individuals where two things, just an initial video of why you need to create visibility for yourself. And there are some handouts, and it's just not notes, because I believe today you go to Google, you get all the contents you want. You go to YouTube, you get the contents, but it's certain exercises to ask and self-reflect what is it that you want. Like, for example, what kind of personal branding you want, what is the message you want to put across, and why, and what do you want to do. So there are some questions that you can ask yourself. And then if you are interested, just like all of us, right, we love to do podcasts, bring out the best essence. Then if you want to fly with the eagles, then start a video or audio podcast and fly with the eagles, invite the eagles in and talk to them. And right, so that is where I've actually put certain notes in there to how you can start a podcast for yourself. And I always believe the hows, in terms of the technical things, you can learn, but the why and what you want to do is where you need to be clear of. So this is where there are some notes, and I think I've given the link. So I'm more than happy. Do feel free to download. And you have questions, we have LinkedIn, any part of the world, no worries. You can just, send me a message and I will reply, definitely.
Awesome. I think I see the link here. It's HTTP, of course. I'm old school, so I say I have to go to HTTP. I know the people that are born after 2002, they don't even go to HTTP, they don't do www, but I'll still do that. So HTTP, https://www.sakthivelthevar.com/creating visibility. Now, you could tell I'm not good at reading. I read as a second grader, but what I'll do is we'll post this link up on our podcast so that our listeners can go there and download it and get to learn how to ask themselves the why. Why am I doing this? What's my message? And follow those steps that you've given us. Gentlemen, are there some other rounding up questions that we have for Sakthi as we begin to wrap this up?
Yeah, just one quick question. I'm curious. Gideon has shared with me one or two things about Singapore from his experience living there. And I'm just curious if there's anything about the culture in Singapore that you would like to share with our audience that maybe they might not know about the culture there, that you might find interesting or unique about the area. I've never had the privilege of visiting there.
I think Singapore, just like America, Singapore, we have different religions, different races, so I will say that now we are coming to a point where it's about not even racial tolerance, but acceptance. So, we live and respect each other. And as each generation, when we started respecting and we started even get involved in those things, I think that's a key. Why? Because the moment you are able to do that, you will start to practice empathy. And this is where you will accept certain things that are different. I think that's something key that I'm very proud that over in Singapore we have. But of course, compared to the other countries, we are much smaller, so maybe it could be easier to enforce, or I won't even say enforce, to have that in place. That's one thing. And Singapore is definitely an awesome city for food. I'm sure everyone knows it's the best place you can have. From the spicy to the, it's everywhere.
Gideon tells me we should try the durian.
It's the food, and I say it's the culture that's important. And yes, it's a very busy place. People are very focused and you know they are very focus oriented in terms of work and everything. So you find that it's a very busy place, but I think it's an awesome place where if you are really talking about taking a break, you want a sun, good food. I think yeah, Singapore is an awesome place to be.
Cool. Every day. When it comes to food, number one. When it comes to harmony, number one. When it comes to an island in the sun, number one. I could go on and on and on. So, and you can jog all year round. Steve, think about that. There's no winter, okay, dude? So maybe we should take a trip. We could take a trip sometime soon. But I know John is also speaking to a group of execs from Singapore soon. So hopefully he might touch base with you and learn something. Steve, is there something else you would like to check in with Sakthi before we wrap this up?
Yeah, one of the things, Sakthi, that we like to do toward the end of it is something I'll do at this point and ask you, do you have a favorite quote that you'd like to share with our guests? Maybe something that kind of inspires you on a regular basis, something that or maybe it's just a particular quote that you've heard recently that really motivates and inspires you.
I do short, simple, and I think it's something that I keep it close to my heart. It's make it happen. So that's something that I keep it to myself. Why? Because I mean, things will be tough. It's never going to be easy, right? Good things never come easy. So my job is to make it happen, to fix things, to get it to the next level. So that's a quote that I keep very close. In fact, it's more than a quote. It's like a philosophy that I believe in. It's like, just make it happen. If you can't find ways, look at it and make it happen. Yep, Steve, I think that's the key.
I love that. That is fantastic. Thank you. Gideon, I'll turn it back to you.
So, any final question for Sakthi, John? I know we can continue this conversation for much longer, but we also want to show appreciation for his time. He was able to jump in right. We did a poor calculation of time. It's something that we all have to get used to, because with globalization, with the lockdown still slowly improving, we need to get better at looking at time zones and all that. But John, I'm sure you may have another final question about how to do something or how to accomplish something.
Maybe just one final tip that we could leave the audience with. You had talked about the three things about positioning, clarity, and then letting people see your uniqueness. The exercises in that free download that you mentioned, are the questions in there focused on those types of things, or is it a different type of exercises?
It's slightly different. This is more focused on, but it does address that.
Okay.
Why? Because I didn't focus too much on that, because I wanted people to really think a bit more deeper, and sometimes it could be slightly different from what I said. So,
okay,
you know, I want them to list out things that is very close to their heart, that they think is important for them, rather than me telling them you should do this. But it will lead them to, the questions are meant to lead them to these key three things eventually.
perfect.
They will be close.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to wrap up on, so they know a little taste of what they'll be getting. Great.
Yeah, so thank you very much, John, for those inquisitive questions. Thank you very much, Steve, for keeping an eye on any lapses in our questions. And thanks very much to our guest, Sakthi, all the way from the most awesome city that I know in Asia, Singapore, for sharing your visibility tips with us. But going beyond that, talking about the humanity that governs all that you're doing. And I keep two quotes away from today. It's make it happen. And my favorite word of all words is orchestrate. So make it happen is very much, it's like we're on the same lane there. And then the final one, if you fly with the eagles, you'll be soon to be an eagle. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for this warm conversation this morning. We hope that somebody will take something away from this to change not only themselves, their families, their communities, and to make a world a better place. Thank you very much. And bye from On the Ramp to Success. It's been your humble host, Gideon Fomukwai on behalf of the three guys in a rental car. Thank you so much, gentlemen.